Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This will be my full Star Wars Andor Episode 5 video. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes. Be sure to subscribe to get them. Careful for spoilers from the episode. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll just start at the beginning and work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments. Starting with the title. The episode was titled The Axe Forgets, a reference to Arvel saying the axe forgets but the tree remembers. It was his metaphor for the Empire forgetting about them when they were growing up, and many others that they grind down in their prisons, the work camps, facilities for processing children, and they are the trees that grow up as children in that system and then remember what the Empire did to them, coming back for revenge later. And it's meant to be a big part of why they're doing this, creating the rebellion. And I believe they also referenced the rebellion by name in the episode for the first time. I don't think we've actually heard them refer to it as the rebellion, at least in an episode yet. This episode was mostly about them beginning the heist and kind of showing you the Imperial base for the first time, and also showing you a little bit more around Coruscant and some of the other planets. Now I'm assuming the entire heist just takes place in next week's episode, unless it winds up being like a really long heist or a really short episode and there's a cliffhanger. The actual opening scene starts with Karn having gone back to his mother's with his tail between his legs, trying to find a new job basically. That's a whole conversation he has with his mother about finding new prospects. She seems very ambitious for her son. It also kind of looks like he's eating a version of space Cocoa Puffs here that are a little bit green, and they have some blue milk, which obviously big Star Wars thing, blue milk. When she references the conversation with the uncle about this job that he might wind up getting, I think the idea is that it's going to push him in the direction of the Empire or something that will throw him back into the story because he looks at the picture of Andor that he has on file. And in the first couple of episodes, I thought of him as being kind of like an Inspector Javert, Les Mis type of character, like the person who won't let it go, who will just pursue him to the end of their days. Because that's basically what Deidre is doing on the Empire side of things, we might see Karn also join the Empire. Like that might be the job that they think that he should get. Oh, you should advance your prospects. Join the Empire. He already has the vibe of an Imperial character to begin with. Then we see Andor wake up, his rebellion study manual, all of his stuff is gone. They're investigating because the whole idea is that none of them really trust each other that much. And he's like brand new to the group. It's a big thing in the episode, them not totally trusting him. The corporate issue blaster that he references is the one he stole off the men that he killed in episode 1. Like, where did you get this? I didn't really get their names. The way Arvel talks about his tattoos, they seem like they're from various Imperial institutions that he grew up in as a child until he eventually decided to join the rebellion. The one for the Crate Head is a reference to the Crate Dragon from Tatooine, obviously, which we saw during the events of The Mandalorian, like we actually saw a real Crate Dragon. The phrase, by the hand, I think is a reference to the Emperor's hand, which were like the super commandos that they featured during Rebels. So it sounds like Arvel actually used to be an Imperial super commando before he chose to join the rebellion. When Andor says that one of the facilities that he was in as a child was Sippo, that's brand new to the Star Wars universe. There are a lot of people in a lot of places that are brand new to Star Wars that they introduced in this episode. But you also remember that a lot of his backstory he lied to Luthen about, so he could be lying about that, just because he's a pathological liar. Later in the episode, after Arvel finds out about the Kyber crystal, the Jedi crystal that Andor has, and gets really pissed off at him, he explains the actual reason why he joined the rebellion is because the Empire basically caused his brother to kill himself. And before that, his brother ran a tree farm, which is why he made the tree axe metaphor earlier in the episode. And a couple of you were mentioning this in my earlier videos, but yes, he is the actor who played Micro in Netflix's The Punisher. We get a little bit of Mon Mothma in this episode. We see a little bit more of her around the breakfast table. It's a very opulent spread. Like, remember, she's meant to be one of the richest people on Coruscant, one of the most powerful people, too, in the Senate. But the breakfast is just meant to give you a vibe for her home life. We'd never really met her husband in the Star Wars canon before, like the canon had never mentioned him before, and it never mentioned that she had a daughter, whose name Leda sounds very similar to Leia. Maybe that has something to do with her joining the rebellion later. Now it sounds like right now she's already trying to help the rebellion on the DL, but she's not all in completely, so what might wind up happening, like early theory, press F to pay respects, her family might die in some kind of Imperial accident, or the Empire might lead to their deaths, and that might cause her to go all in on the rebellion. Because it sounds like a lot of these early rebels are super hardcore, and most of them join because they lost someone very close to them. It's kind of hard to pick up what's going on with her daughter with this brief conversation that they have. She comes off a little bit like a typical spoiled rich girl, but I think the idea is that she falsely believes that Mon Mothma is one of those typical politicians that everybody hates. It sounds like she's trying to take her to some charitable cause that she's working on, but it sounds like her daughter thinks that she doesn't actually care about what she's doing. If they do wind up killing her daughter off during the series, maybe before that happens, she'll find out what Mon Mothma is really doing. Like, no, I'm actually trying to help people on the DL. We're trying to get rid of this empire. And later in the car ride on Coruscant with her husband, we get a little bit more of a tour of the exterior of Coruscant, or the upper levels of Coruscant. You have to remember the entire planet is covered in the city, and each level of the city is just built on the old layers of the city as they go along. So they're like thousands of years of city just buried underneath the top layers. You wind up exploring a lot more of Coruscant during the Clone Wars episode, so if you really like them going on tours all over different places of the city and different lower levels, they actually did that in Clone Wars episodes. But it sounds like on their car ride home, when her husband starts asking her about what she's actually doing with these charitable causes, they want to make him come off as less of a dirtbag. Like, he actually does kind of care about what she's doing. Back on Aldhani, when they start drinking that Dre milk, Dre was a former human Jedi Padawan during the Clone Wars, but I think this Dre animal is meant to be something that's completely different and new to the Star Wars canon. The really old navigation device that Nemik gives him sounds like it's pre-Empire, so it could be Republic, it could be a little bit older than that. He makes it sound like it's ancient. And I think the way he talks to Andor and a lot of the other conversations he has throughout this part of the episode is they're supposed to slowly inspire him to care more about the actual state of the galaxy. Like, he starts to hear the stories of these other people, why they joined the rebellion, and they start to inspire him a little bit more. Because at this point in the story, he still doesn't really care about the rebellion, he doesn't care about the Empire. The only thing he actually wants is to find his sister, so he'll do anything he has to further that cause. And that's the whole idea. He's working for Luthen, pulling this job because he thinks he's going to get a bunch of money and that will help him find his sister. But it sounds like part of his arc through the series is just growing to believe in their cause, because during Rogue One, it seems like he's full-on rebellion. The other Resistance members not really knowing what's going on with their escape vessel is just to show you that a lot of what they're doing is done by the seat of their pants, and they're kind of making things up as they go along, hoping for the best. Like, at any point, any of this could fail and they could all die. Andor's fake name that he's using for the mission is Clem, because that was the name he wanted to use that he told Luthen. That was his adoptive father's name, even though he didn't tell that part to Luthen. Part of his fake backstory they create for this mission is that he's going to be a transfer from Alkenzi in this other base. That's just another place on this same Aldhani planet. And I love the transition during this scene, because right after he gets done being asked whether or not he knows how to march and act as an Imperial soldier, they transition to the Imperial soldiers actually marching in formation on Ferrix. Everybody running around in the black uniforms, those are just regular Imperial officers. Imperial officers have a couple different types of uniforms they wear, the black ones and the green ones, but they're all meant to be part of the Imperial Navy. And the whole idea is that they're just furthering their mission in taking over this area, which was previously ruled by the corporation. Because there's 12 episodes and we're still pretty early on in the series, we'll probably see a lot more of them on this planet, especially with Bix's character. Back on Aldhani, they get a flyby by one of the TIE fighters going back to the base, and we find out what's going on with Lieutenant Gorn and his backstory, like why it is that he's helping them in joining the rebellion when he's already being paid so well as an Imperial lieutenant. They basically explain that the Empire is eventually planning on tearing down the entire area where the celestial phenomenon is viewed, this big sacred place for the people. They're basically going to mow over it and use the planet as more of a jumping off point for more of their operations, like a much bigger hub for the Imperial fleet. So they're basically going to pave over most of the planet. So not only are they going to lose the celestial phenomenon that everybody keeps talking about during the episode, like it's this very revered thing, like even the lower grade Imperial officers are really excited about watching it. Like they say you have to be up there to see it, even though we can't all be up there. But also Gorn, at some point in the past, fell in love with one of the local women, and that's probably his connection to why he grew to love the celestial phenomenon so much. And when the Empire found out about his liaison with the woman, they withheld his promotion, and eventually something happened, and the woman wound up leaving. It sounds like she's still alive, but it sounds like something caused her to take off. So he lost his promotion, he lost his woman, and pretty soon they're going to lose this celestial phenomenon to the Empire, and that's why he wants to help the rebellion. Back on Coruscant in the Imperial Security Bureau, Deidre references Hosnian Prime again. Her aide references Kessel, Fondor, Jakku. Kessel, obviously where the spice mines are, mentioned several times all across the Star Wars movies and TV shows. Fondor is another planet where they have the Imperial shipyards. They referenced this earlier in the season. And Jakku is obviously from the sequel trilogy. It's the location of one of the Emperor's secret vaults of special weapons, artifacts, contingency plans. It becomes a big deal in the fall of the Empire after the events of Return of the Jedi. Base K that he mentions is brand new to Star Wars, and the Steergard base is the Imperial base that Luthen mentioned earlier. It's brand new to Star Wars as well, but it's also the place where Andor stole the Star Path unit from initially. And the whole pattern here that she's trying to figure out is her learning about the rebellion just in general, like slowly eventually tracking Luthen and all of his cohorts down. We jump back to the Imperial base at Aldhani, so we see a little bit of the inside and the ship that they're going to be using to try and escape that they were talking about earlier in the episode. We also get to see the actual payroll that they'll be stealing, like this giant pile of what looks like gold. Basically, they'd be like a version of Imperial credits. Like, there's a couple different versions of money inside the Star Wars universe, but during the reign of the Empire, Imperial credits were like the main form of currency. And Gorn basically tries to create a situation that will cause most of the people working there to not be around during the actual heist when it's going down, just to make it a little bit easier for everyone. Remember, the whole idea is they're going to be pulling the heist off while the celestial phenomenon is happening, so most of that base, most of the Imperial officers there, will be outside watching it, and not inside the base watching the actual payroll. And then back at Luthen's shot, the communicator that he's watching here, listening to, is the same device that Bix was trying to contact him on earlier. It sounds like he's using this old transmitter technology just to communicate with all the other people he's working with in the rebellion. But because there are Easter eggs all over his shop, remember, his whole thing is that he's a collector. He deals in stolen and found quote-unquote artifacts, although I think part of the idea is that they were stolen and pilfered from other people, like a lot of them are Jedi artifacts pilfered from Jedi temples. But the main ones they really want you to focus on are what look like a Jedi holocron and a Sith holocron. Sith holocrons are the triangular ones, the Jedi holocrons are the square-looking ones. They're a little bit bigger than holocrons have been depicted in the past, but it just sounds like that's what they want you to think of when you look at them. Like, oh wait a minute, those look kind of like holocrons. Some of the other major Jedi artifacts in the front of his shop that we saw previously on the series were part of the Jedi mural of the Mortis gods, which was featured during the Clone Wars episodes, which is actually a really big deal. Surprised that he would actually have it. This looks like Plo Koon's mask, and in the background here, after the episode, Sam Witwer said that this is basically Starkiller's armor. So he said that he's kind of in the episode. Like I said, I'm kind of in the episode. If you really bend over backwards, you could say that that makes Starkiller canon, not officially, but kind of canon. The stones on the upper right here look kind of like the stones from Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom, and I'm not sure what this neck piece on the wall is. Like, it's very prominent, so if you think you recognize this neck piece in the background here, just let me know what you think it is in the comments below. But this is just a small part of his shop, so I'm sure as they show more scenes in here in different angles, we'll see more Easter eggs in the background. But it was a relatively short episode. There wasn't a whole lot going on during it, so if you think you spotted any other big Easter eggs or references that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. There's a link for all my Andor videos in the description below. You can also click here for my brand new House of the Dragon Episode 8 video, and click here for my brand new Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.